All right, guys, we're gonna be reacting to every killer's greatest controversy in Dead by Daylight's history. There's been a lot, bro. Fuck, knowing DVDs so much.
Biggest controversy in DBD.
Okay, wait.
Here's every killer's biggest controversy in DBD history, whether it's balance related, design related, or with their state of release. This is going to largely be based on how much of an uproar and discussion they've caused over the years.
A lot.
Have to go
Trapper.
with one of his very early states in the game where he was able to place traps directly under hooks. This was way back upon the launch of the game in 2016, where there were many things to be ironed out. This was a huge one though, as it allowed you to camp.
Bro, yeah, oh my god, I remember this so much. I used to do this all the fucking time. I don't care, bro. Call me like a camper, but like this was just like efficiency, right? Because old DBD, you could only pick up survivors off of the hook, facing you, right? In the front. There was no running to the side of a person and taking them off the hook like there is now, right? Like the body never turned. The body was just straight. So in whatever direction that the survivors were facing on the hook, all you had to do was place a trap in front of them, and every survivor would have to disable the trap before getting the survivor, which was fucking insane. It was so OP.
To an even greater extent, due to being able to literally block hook saves entirely, and even self-unhooks, as they'd be met with an instant trap clamping onto them.
They'd self-unhook and then just immediately die again.
With it being viewed as very unfair. Wraith has,
by the way, and there was no DS back in the day.
It's not had many notable controversies, I'd argue, but one notable one was the removal of the light burn mechanic. A mechanic for Wraith where you could shine a flashlight onto his body whilst he was cloaked.
The moment this happened, I cried. I'm not gonna lie. This was, okay, don't get me wrong. This was a big W for Wraith as a killer, but like as a survivor, I thought like it was so cool to be able to like have like this like hidden mechanic that like I feel like not a lot of people knew. And like it wasn't like it was like super easy, because all you had to do really, well, I guess on like open maps like this, but at the same time, when you're invisible as Wraith, you're moving around so quickly, and people would have to like full on track you accurately to actually light burn you. And I felt like it took like some skill.
And burn him.
Maybe it didn't, I don't know.
This was removed in April of 2023 and was
this wasn't even that long ago,
due to it being a unique and well-loved mechanic. With many feeling its removal removed an interesting interaction from the game.
I agree.
Billy had the huge controversy that was the overheat rework in patch 4.1.0. This patch introduced a new restrictive mechanic for Billy's chainsaw, where if he used it too much, it would overheat, leading it to be unusable. This was largely hated, but also defended in many cases as a necessary nerf to Billy's overpowered kit at the time. The main issue people had was due to the removal of many techs, such as feathering, where the new version of the power was restrictive and unrewarding. This was pushed through by the devs despite the back.
And what ended up happening in the end was they're like, okay, well, if you don't want overheat, we'll give you overdrive, and they fucking made him even stronger. It's like they should have just taken the overheat, bro.
Community eventually feeling validated with the reverse of the mechanic and introduction of overdrive in its place in 2024. Nurse has always been a controversial character from day one, as she offers a completely new spin on DBD gameplay that also subsequently destroys the game's entire ecosystem with its existence.
Bro, the 3 blink?
Being able to blink through floors and walls breaks most of the mechanics of the game, and yet she's remained unnerfed to a substantial degree for nearly 9 years of the game. She's been the top dog for its entire run, and so she's always been viewed controversially. I'd debate this is the most controversial thing that's happened to her. She's never been nerfed out of that top spot. She's always retained it.
My thing is, like, I feel like the devs don't know what they can do with Nurse without totally taking the character, like, and putting them to their death, right? Because, like, the one thing that makes Nurse OP is her ability to teleport through walls, right? Basically negate all the mechanics in the game, like, all the walls, everything. No other killer can do this. But like if you take that away, then there's no killer, right? So like you can't like really nerf her, because like if you nerf, like it's such like a fine line.
Regardless,
I guess like you can make
the game. Ask literally any
because they already like made the fatigue a lot more too,
and they'll probably have an issue with Nurse. She's always been overpowered.
There's like no way to balance her.
The most divided anyone has ever been around the character has been the recent 2025 rework to the character, 9 years on from his release. This has been met with a range of reactions from love to hate from the community, with it changing Maya's
shout out that girl Amanda
considerable and debatably controversial way. The main controversial aspect being that his gameplay shifted away from his original lore-accurate feeling and signature playstyle. Hag has had quite a controversial past, with her being viewed as quite an extreme camper, and one of the worst for a period of time, with many hags originally playing her by spamming traps around a hook.
I don't think like the camping or whatever was like necessarily like the hag's most controversial. I think the hag's most controversial update, whatever you want to call it, patch or whatever, was when they took away the ability to burn her traps with a flashlight. When they took away the ability to burn the hag's traps with the flashlight, a lot of survivors were angry because now they would have to crouch walk up to her trap and go into an interaction that takes like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 seconds or something like that, and physically remove the trap. Like because like back in the day, you would be in the middle of chase and would be able to just flash your beam and destroy the trap, or like do it from a distance and never had to really like get close to a killer that was like standing next to their trap or something. So it was like the ultimate counter. If you were a hag and like you had a game where there was 4 survivors with 4 flashlights, bro, all your traps, useless that game. But now survivors have to physically and manually go and get them, and like it made her a lot stronger.
Or the basement.
But so many people were like
greatly with time, however, with her traps
hating and loving
scratchable. With this only
Same
happening
time. It was very
fair,
controversial
because of the really bad camping situation. I'd say her days of camping though are simply her greatest controversy. She used to be a truly hated character and actually played a decent amount, I'd say.
Yeah.
Nowadays, she's completely forgotten. It's either this or her awful
No one fucking plays her, bro.
She was just terrible. Doctor has been a decently controversial character
God,
over the years, with him needing a number of reworks. I think his most controversial point in time though was his rather broken state after his rework in 1.6.2.
Wait, I don't think I know this one.
Where he was able to utilize healing perks within his kit to stop survivors from snapping out of madness. He could use healing perks such as a nurse's cooling to see survivors snapping out of it, and even use coulrophobia to make the skill checks even harder. This was a really controversial state.
Oh my god, that's tech. Wait, what? Bro, wait. So you can use coulrophobia to make them miss skill checks and do the snapping out of it slower and see them while they're doing this. And then also you can maybe run like Iridescent King or something like that. And then like every time that they mess up, I think their aura is showing. I think that's what Iridescent King does, or maybe it's Queen. I know it's like one of the add-ons, something like that. I could be wrong. Forgive me. I'm fucking brains everywhere.
For Doctor at the time, with it later being removed in 2.4.0. The most heat the character has ever received. Huntress has had some periods of
5 incidents. Oh my god, I remember this. This wasn't even that long ago, actually. Huntress used to have a lot of iridescent hatchets.
The most controversial or broken period she had were her days of being able to run multiple insta-down hatchets, or when she was buffed to have 7 at base. These were hardly big controversies though, debatably, but those are the most notable, I think. I think when she was able to run 5 insta-down hatchets, that was probably her biggest controversy.
Yeah, but I also, like, I feel like a lot of people kind of understand, like, the removal of the 5 insta-down hatchets. Like, I feel like most people were kind of, like, okay with that, because, like, Huntress mains, they knew that shit was busted. And every survivor fucking hated it because they had 5 chances to insta-down you in chase, which is like insane. And then they could just like reload super quick with like Iron Maiden or some shit, and then like
quite a lot of
throw 5 more. Shit was so broken. I think everyone knew that was just broken and needed to be out of the game.
Survivors had the insta heals, so a Huntress being able to run 5 insta downs was seen as fair.
Bro, if you had a like, if you're going up against a good Huntress, you couldn't even do anything.
Controversy surrounding his alleged removal in early 2023. It was leaked in January 2023 that Bubba would be getting removed from the game, not too dissimilarly to Stranger Things. It was presumed to be down to
I didn't even realize that they were going to get he was going to get
Chainsaw Massacre game
taken away.
This led to a huge uproar in the community and an official, almost jokey dev response that he wasn't going anywhere. This was absolutely huge and spread throughout the community like wildfire. Despite it, I think, just being a rumor ultimately, or maybe a possibility that just didn't ever end up quite happening. Bubba was saved. Freddy has always been a controversial...
Bro, Freddy, oh my god. I think like the #1 controversial thing for Freddy is the Forever Freddy, where he was able to like stall games for literally ever. I mean, that's why they called it forever. Like, you were not getting a gen done against the Forever Freddy with like Overcharge, Ruin.
We have in game. The 2010 remake version of the character and the lesser popular of the two versions. Freddy has always been controversial though, due to his power as well over the years, which has changed multiple times and always been a bit controversial in some way. Whether it be that the power is,
I think he's the strongest he's ever been right now,
too
personally,
boring and overpowered, or weak and incredibly boring. It's always sort of had a problem. So Freddy's been controversial because people view him as the wrong Freddy in many ways, his lack of cosmetics, and some of his worst states, such as Forever Freddy. So just pick
Forever Freddy, you mentioned it. Yes.
His greatest controversy, aside the persistent nerf pig joke and the constant nerfs from the devs for a period of time, is likely around a particular build she had. This build utilized the iridescent add-on Videotape, which forces all survivors to start the trial with traps on their heads. Due to the way Pig's traps originally worked, she could stand in front of one of...
Bro, okay. I don't know if anyone remembers this, and I don't know if it was just like certain map variants or what, but there was like a Macmillan map variant where the trap would be in like a tiny little like nook, if you will, like a little nook and cranny. It was literally like a rock here and then like another rock here, but like they were kind of like longer, and you kind of had to step in like maybe like 2 or 3 steps into this spot to start getting your trap off. You could literally body block a survivor in that tiny nook and cranny, and if they didn't get the trap off, you could sit there and like watch them die. And like, don't get me wrong, you couldn't do this as like killer, but like as a survivor, because everyone knows survivors should love fucking trolling each other. And like I know, because I personally did this and got so much fucking like hate messages because I did it. Don't get me wrong, dick move, but at the same time, so funny. Like, just watching your teammate just like die in front of you and not being able to run anywhere.
Forcibly killed by their trap, as they'd be unable to retrieve the key due to Pig blocking it. This was what
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's insane.
Pig's traps and their mechanics, and so I'd say this was a pretty significant controversy in regards to Pig, at least. Clown has always been a decently controversial and divisive character due to his power. His bottles and their application of slowdown and distortion have caused a lot of discussion.
That speed was fucking insane,
and are either seen as quite weak or wildly overpowered depending on who you ask. I'd say this actually came to a head notably fairly recently with his 2025 changes.
Bro, people were having like 40-50% haste. Like, what?
In 2025, his yellow bottles were buffed considerably, leading to heated debate over whether this was helpful or made him ridiculously overpowered with his newfound speed. He's always kind of been a somewhat hated character, but I think this has been a period of people really disliking him. But there also being another side of people who are really finding joy in him with this new speed playstyle.
It was fun, but at the same time, like, it's so broken.
Controversial killer over the years due to being on the stronger end of killers through the years as well, and doing so whilst having very little.
I think this was just like a tech though.
Her peak of controversy was just after her release in 2018, up until probably about 2021, where she was considered the second best killer for a long time, and debated even as the best due to her range of OP add-ons, having a power without any counterplay, pretty much, with her core mind game being to stand still. I'd argue this entire no counterplay time period was her most notable controversy. This whole state of her was awful. One of the most unfair, uncounterable characters the game has ever seen. Maybe,
and she always has like the passive phasing too, that is so annoying.
Of their launch state, or just after their launch state, in which they were viewed as incredibly problematic due to the way some chose to play them, and what was commonly met with a DC. This version of Legion allowed them to apply Deep Wound, regressing
that's every killer now. He would have DC
mixtape and Stab Wound Study, and then chase backwards, allowing them to regress the bleed timer out while still technically chasing you, leading to impossible to escape chases. Plague has always been a...
That's the way. Well, I guess that's kind of like that's still the same way that it works now, right? With play with your food stacks. You should, like, you're technically still able to chase people, but like the way like you're supposed to do it while playing Myers was to still chase people but like walk backwards. So
a little controversial.
I never knew like people did that as just Legion though.
Power, which acts very
so like kind of the mending.
She disallows the use of healing perks essentially by causing all infected survivors to become broken. This is an effect I've personally never been much of a fan of, and I know the sentiment is definitely shared. I'd argue this is the core of her greatest controversy over the years, is how divisive her power has consistently been, still to this day. The fact she denies or negates the whole aspect of the healing mechanic is still pretty controversial, I'd say. Ghostface had a fairly...
Yeah, but there's also like so many perks that people run, you know, like Dead Hard, people are running Resilient, Deadline, like people are running like there's so many perks that you can have while injured that give you such like a good benefit that even though you're hurt the entire game while playing against a plague, you're still kind of like more powerful than you would be if you weren't hurt. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like those perks are like ran a lot nowadays. I don't think like it's too bad nowadays.
Controversy around his release,
but if you don't have any of that equipped and you're going against a plague,
the core of this
fucking
was
terrible.
that he got leaked in his entirety, leading to a range of frustrations throughout the community. When the PTB finally did roll around, it was made worse by the fact that his reveal mechanic specifically was incredibly sensitive and made him almost unplayable, with the joke being at the time that you could spin in a circle and reveal him without even trying. So I think the general handling of this chapter was probably the most
people were like
thing he's been through. Demogorgon
using like FOV bugs or like stretch res to fucking
I suppose it's
reveal
its
him.
removal from the game, which was quite controversial, largely because it was the first significant license being removed from the game and was the first time the community saw that this was possible at all. This aside, I would have to go with the lifeguard whistle.
Yeah, but I honestly like the removal of like the Stranger Things chapter is the only reason why like I went and dropped, I don't know, I think like $30-$40 on how do I say V-Bucks on fucking Auroric sales, and went and just bought like every single Nancy skin, and then I bought like most of the Steve skins, and then I bought most of the Demo skins. Like I literally went and spent so much money because I was like, fuck man, like none of these skins are going to be in the game anymore.
Build popularized,
and then people were scalping
that led to the ability to
the Stranger Things DLC.
5 stacks of Devour. That was pretty overpowered too, and everyone hated that. This build eventually leading to the Lifeguard Whistle rework. Rest in peace. Oni has largely not been too controversial, I'd say, but he's not been completely free of them either. The biggest one related to him was, I think, his release date probably, just after his PTB, where he was very strong. And so when he came to life, he received some fairly considerable nerfs to his flicks.
I feel like Oni's perfect now.
You could almost do a complete 360, I believe, or at least a 180 flick. It's quite funny now, considering these were basically added back to the game again. This was fairly short-lived though, with him basically still being strong regardless of these changes from PTB to live. He's been largely unproblematic since as well. Many at the time were definitely upset about this.
I don't even remember this guy's
on the Steam
PTB. I don't even know if I played the Oni PTB.
Deathslinger today is not particularly controversial in any way, but back upon his release this was far from the case, with him being highly controversial. I think partly due to the fact that he had a gun. I think that alone raised...
I remember this. Oh my god. People were able to quick scope and there was no like reaction time to be had, bro. I don't care if you are Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. A lot of times there was just no time. Like he would just walk you down, instantly quick scope. A lot of times like on the Survivor side, it would look like the shot would come out before like the gun even like reached its like peak. And you were just cooked. But now they made it to where like it takes a really long time, or it doesn't take a long time, but it takes like maybe like at least a second. Like there's actually time to react to it now.
Instant ADS speed, or the ability to aim down sights near instantly. This was pretty hotly debated of whether it needed to be nerfed or not. But the main controversy came soon after his release in patch 5.3.0. with the nerf to his ADS speed, but also a bunch of other things. The nerf at the time was
I don't think he moves that quick while ADS. I mean, like you can run add-ons that make it faster, but still.
Along with an increase to his terror radius and a sweep of nerfs to his add-ons. At the time, it felt very punishing, despite the nerfs being...
Bro, Deathslinger is so fun to play. I don't care what anyone says, man.
Deathslinger mains quit, and many called for the nerfs to be reverted, actually.
Now there's no animation
how ridiculously
completely
overpowered pre-Nerfslinger seems to us now. There was actually a real clash within the community, though, of people who thought it was fair, and people who thought it was actually very unfair and unjustified. Pyramid Head is...
Bro, I feel like with, like, not Pyramid, I feel like with Deathslinger, like, a lot of his add-ons aren't even, like, that crazy. Like, majority of the time, people use ADS speed or Redeemer reload speed, like, when you miss a shot. And then there's, like, some people who run, like, the coin, or the shiny coin or whatever. But, like, I feel like 80-90% of his add-ons are kind of poo.
A largely non-controversial character. He had a positive launch and reception, aside there being a bit of a hot debate, I suppose, around cages, with people being slightly annoyed that he had almost an anti-tunnel feature, if that makes sense.
That shit was broken.
His
I hated
cages
that.
could let him tunnel, basically, which many were not too happy about. However, the one big controversy, of course, was the
I-
Assgate of 2020,
Assgate?
when it was rumored that Pyramid Head's rear had been nerfed, only for the devs to deny this. This was a huge deal at the time, covered by many media outlets, and even getting an official response from the devs, saying they never actually did nerf it. Even if you bring this up today, it's going to be a bit of a hot debate. People still can't quite agree on whether the devs were telling the truth or not.
Gooners, bro. Come on. What are we doing in our lives, guys, as DVD players? What?
Which I think is quite funny. Did they really know?
We're sparking debates over a character's booty.
Know the real truth.
Okay.
Blight's had some wild states over the years, which have definitely added to his overall persistent controversial state. The biggest
I think Blight
controversy,
itself
though, I'd
is
have
fucking
to say,
big
surrounded
controversy.
The add-on Alchemist's Ring, with this add-on sort of representing a bigger issue, I'd say. This was an overpowered add-on which replenished all charges after
Alchemist
landing a
is
dash
insane.
hit. This add-on then getting nerfed, but barely, with it still remaining incredibly strong, as only its secondary effect was removed. This was the most notable, I think, but Blight's add-ons in general have been a point of contention over the years, with them frequently escaping.
Is
nerfs,
Blight shit on the
despite
game?
how
I feel like
wildly
Blight is
overpowered
kind of
they've
bad
been.
on the game,
So
no?
I'd say Blight's add-ons, I think, is a good one.
I mean, it's
Just
Survivor
how
side map, but
powerful
still.
they've been and how frequently they escape nerfs. When characters like Twinsay, who have mostly awful add-ons, were catching strays and nerfs here and there, someone like Blight was somehow persistently escaping them. Speaking of twins have gone through some real issues over the years.
Bro,
and have been
this
a
is
controversial-
literally like another character that everyone just fucking hates. Like I feel like just like their name is literally like their controversy. Like Nurse, just thinking about them, controversy, just because like they're able to teleport to everything. Blight, how like stupidly OP and like their mobility is like absolutely astronomically insane. That's just controversy in itself. Twins, the ability to be in like two spots at once is fucking insane.
Well, basically since their launch or release. It's largely just down to them existing too. They released in an incredibly buggy state, having a lot of issues, and during a particularly rough period of the game in late 2020. Since then, they've
Victor
been
is
left with
always
bugs and
bugged.
long-term issues that have led to them being largely disliked or
Even
lacking
recently
in
when
favor, with them getting some
you were
mild
bouncing off of
redemption
people
in 2024 with their
that was clean.
rework, which was more of a bug fix, I think, for lots of people. I'd say their biggest controversy was undoubtedly their PTB though, the worst PTB I'd say in DBD history, where the community looked on as we engaged with this brand new killer who was plagued with bugs and huge design oversights and flaws to their power. For example, the devs simply didn't consider what would happen if a survivor jumped into a locker against Victor. There was no counter to that. If you went into a locker, Victor could do nothing. This was an interaction they had to come up with an idea for the live release of the patch. Trickster, it just has to be
Victor was invisible. Oh my god, wait, I think I remember that too.
Fitting of the DBD killers for the setting and tone of the game. People from day one have been saying this guy doesn't fit and he's a tonal outlier compared to the rest of the killers.
What?
It's crazy.
Why? Bro, like what? How is Trickster, and I mean, okay, I get it. He's kind of just like a normal human, I guess, like a psychotic human who throws knives at people. Yeah, it's like unique, it's different. But at the same time, like you have shit like Legion, are humans as well, just psychotic humans who literally just run around and stab people, which I guess that kind of like fits the game. But at the same time, like I don't see like a lot of difference between like the Legion and Trickster. And then you have shit like Chucky, bro. Like what? Like you have a fucking doll chasing people.
Crazy too, because he's a character who's one of the most fitting actually for the game, debatably, being one of the most relevant for the modern day and modern horrors. It's just because he's bright, and many equate that to instantly meaning he's ill-fitting for the game, along with
being just a psychopath.
Regardless of my opinion though, he was undeniably controversial since his launch, not only for his design but also down to his power, which has been through a number of changes over the years too. Nemesis's greatest controversy came as a result of his awful add-ons, and in general add-ons being very bad at the time.
The tongue wasn't that bad.
It mainly surrounded the add-on Licker Tongue, an add-on that provided a measly 0.15 second increase to the duration of hindered after contamination. This was one of many add-ons in a trend of just awful, useless effects that was highlighted by OTS as well, which added to the add-on's notoriety.
Like, I don't even know if it really did that much.
Maybe one of the worst in DBD history. Pinhead's greatest controversy came around the release of the kill.
Wait, they removed I Came? Wait, is this like live right now? Like they released I Came? No way, right? I mean, like I know I haven't really heard it, but I thought that was just because like no one fucking plays Pinhead anymore.
from PTB to Live, where in the PTB Pinhead had voice lines, where Live they were completely removed. This led to a community-wide state of mourning over I Came. This paired with the NFT concerns at the time too resulted in a huge controversial
oh my god, I remember the NFT.
whammy. The voice lines were eventually reintroduced though, and this time from the original
Oh shit, remember when everyone was talking about NFTs and like DBD had the NFT?
Controversial character who is largely forgotten more than anything. I'd say her biggest controversy was probably her PTB.
I think Artist, if anything, is a very weird killer for the game,
as she came with an overpowered anti-loop ability. On the PTB,
no one plays this
the damage if a
killer besides
ran
Karn
into them while swarmed. This made literally every loop dangerous if you placed a crow down, and the requirement to simply run away. This was a particularly hot PTB topic at the time due to the abundance and strength of
playing with Michael Jackson
and the term anti-loop itself being a popular phrase. Sadako has had a number of controversial states.
Yeah, that condemned shit is so stupid, bro. I'm glad not a lot of people play this killer. The one thing that pisses me off about this killer is that okay, a lot of times you don't even go up against this killer. This killer isn't really played that much, but when this killer is played, the one annoying thing is that whoever's playing her is usually really good at the killer, and all they do is spam, teleport, condemn you, and then more you. That's it. They start off the game by teleporting, and then like all game they just teleport all around until someone is fully condemned, and then they just target that person, down them, more them. Like there's nothing to it. It's such a boring, repetitive loop that you have to deal with as a survivor.
When she was able to simply repeatedly teleport and make the entire team condemned fairly quickly, due to a lose-lose mechanic. She forced you to hold the tape to stop gaining condemned, but then also if you got hit whilst holding one, your condemned went up very quickly too. It created a frustrating lose-lose situation, especially when she ran the OP iridescent videotape, which force you to go toward a single TV.
I didn't even know that you could suppress all the TVs.
Pretty unconditionally, because they cite it as the return of horror to DBD. It's viewed very favourably therefore, and in quite a fond way. Dredge also gets banger outfits, and has always been pretty mid-tier, making it far from the point of conversation.
I hate playing Dredge, bro. I don't know. His gameplay loop is so poo. So boring.
Attention being its reliance on lockers,
that might be a hot take, but still.
Choice due to the strange locker spawns, and the fact that lockers were clearly never meant to be used as part of a teleport power. So I guess that's the main controversial thing that's happened to it. Wesker is largely universally loved nowadays, with him offering a fun power that most enjoy to play and face, and for his silly voice line.
Bro, honestly, I feel like Wesker, for the most part, is kind of balanced for the most part. I don't know. I don't know if there's any changes I personally can think of that would be great for Wesker. Now, then again, I'm not a Wesker main. I don't play Wesker a lot, but I also feel like no one really complains about his strength. People mainly just complain that they go against him so much.
Persona. Wesker's always been viewed pretty favorably, with his greatest controversy being that he was too popular back upon his release, which began to
that was a massive release for the game.
Almost 2 whole months, he was easily the most played killer, and felt like he appeared in almost every single trial. I would say this was it. He was too popular, and it genuinely started to bother people. Knight was viewed quite.
It's just like with Kaneki though,
launch, and it was largely down to his power being reliant.
People overplayed him, and then everyone got tired of Kaneki, and then no one wanted to play, so they just kept DCing.
Power almost, as they took agency away from the player. Knight was also embroiled with the greatly hated 3-gen or gen kick metas, with him being partially blamed along with Skull Merchant for their persistence, as his power was viewed as strong for 3-genning, when to be honest, this wasn't.
I thought it was good for Chase.
Skull Merchant.
I don't know.
Well, where do we start?
Her existence. Bro, but her existence facts. Facts, bro. I honestly think Skull Merchant was my least favorite PTB, right? I don't even know if I have a favorite PTB, but I will say Skull Merchant is easily the worst PTB I've ever played. I played the PTB, had such a terrible time. I made a video immediately talking about how shit the PTB was.
Skull Merchant's existence as a whole has been her biggest controversy.
Yeah.
Even before her launch,
this is a killer that should be taken out of DVD, if there was ever to be one.
Surrounding matter of the time, after the huge shakeup in 6.1.0, Merchant was released into the center of the 3-gen or gen kick meta, with a power that was perfect for holding a 3-gen and dragging out games as
she was literally able to just kidnap people, basically.
The chess merchant in a joking way. She was further hated on launch due to her visual design, which was way out of line with the theorized cyborg hardcore killer many believed the trailers to be hinting at. She was then further mocked for her awful Mori, which was reworked, as well as her lore, which focused on dark Brazilian manga. This hate has spanned far longer than just her launch though, across her subsequent reworks, and even to the current day, where people still frequently DC against her simply because it's her, despite her barely resembling the killer she used to be.
And then like people will like also say like, oh, Skull Merchant hate is like so forced, but then like you play this killer and it's just like it's so fucking like trash. Like I don't know who plays Skull Merchant and is like, oh man, I'm having a great time right now. I can't wait to share this experience with people.
It's honestly
like no one has fun going against her. No one has fun playing her.
Controversial release, but also PTB. It's one I remember too because I think
Singularity was weak at start.
Weakest new killer I've ever
played.
I
always thought Singularity was kind of busted.
Dreadful.
Well, I guess nowadays, right?
The EMPs. They were fast spawning, plentiful, and completely deleted Huck's power almost entirely, making him
like
insane.
Singularity is probably I think he's a pub like stomper, especially since like in solo queue, it's like Singularity needs a lot of teamwork. It needs a lot of communication. When you don't have that in like a public match, then he pops off. He's super fucking OP, especially against someone who actually knows what they're doing when playing the killer. And then he's good enough and strong enough to chow comp teams, which is fucking insane.
Week, with him still remaining somewhat like this even into his launch patch. Xenomorph's biggest controversy was with the suggested reworks in its 2025 PTB.
I don't know who that is.
This PTB was largely controversial due to it basically killing Xenomorph entirely, making a huge part of its kit useless. There was a huge nerf to its main attack ability, its tail, delaying it by a lot, but there was also a buff to flame turrets, enabling survivors to easily and repeatedly burn Xeno out of its power. It got a huge community uproar, and was almost entirely reverted. Chucky was very controversial around his release and largely down to his overpowered state. On his launch he was very overpowered, with his dash being incredibly fast and his scamper providing him a wild amount of pressure.
I mean, like, not even just that, like the third person nature of Chucky being the only third person killer in DBD was fucking insane, bro. You like, if you are undetectable, you have the ability to like third person peek around corners and hide. Was fucking nuts.
These abilities also just fanned the flames due to many viewing them as unjustified. Unknown's biggest controversy was down to its presentation in its trailers compared to its presentation in-game. One key feature present in the trailers for Unknown was its ability to cruel. This was presumed to be a mechanic for it and its power, but upon its PTB reveal, there was no cruel ability in sight.
Bro, imagine Unknown, you had an ability to like change forms
or simply feeling
and go into like crawler mode and move faster. That'd be crazy.
Vecna, I want to go with something a bit unique due to him not really having many notable controversies. One lore-based one I remember though was surrounding the introduction of the Mark of the Entity, a mark placed onto Vecna by the entity specifically due to his great power level.
I don't even think I've ever noticed that.
A sign of him being nerfed down. This in itself was somewhat contested by some as impossible due to Vecna's own power. However, the bigger issue there was with people complaining that other notably strong killers, lore-wise, didn't have the mark as well, such as Sadako, Freddy, or Pyramid Head. Ultimately though, this was a...
Do people actually like fight about stuff like this? Like lore stuff about the game? Are there actual like debate conversations like that?
A D&D specific thing, and I guess
I'm just like not a lore person, so like I don't really care. Like I don't even think I've read everyone's lore or like backstory.
Debate at the time. Dracula is fairly new and so has hardly been controversial so far. I'd debate one of the controversial elements of Dracula was actually to do with his castle. It's suspected his castle was actually the reason for the removal of the passive fog on the game's realms, due to it originally restricting the view of the castle. This has been a bit of a hot change and led to a lot of controversy.
I think the castle is really cool.
Trying to figure out if that's even the case or that's why it happened. I'm not sure if this was ever confirmed, but it's certainly become a hot topic regardless, due to it being suspected. Houndmaster was controversial on her launch and largely down to the bugs.
Bro, honestly, like, Houndmaster should be like the same thing as Skull Merchant, basically her existence. Like, that PTB also, everyone hated the fucking Houndmaster. Everyone saw how buggy the dog was and like how it just never really worked. you would send it through a window, and that motherfucker would like hop it over and over until the end of time.
She faced with her having quite a few.
No one liked that.
The big stir in the community and ultimately led to
Literally
her roster being quite disliked. Although there were a few upsides, with people
got that wall
loving that she
pregnant.
could pet the dog.
Crazy.
Her launch was largely tainted by the overwhelming number of bugs, which feels like it really marred her launch too, and even her current play rate. It's a real shame, because she's a really fun killer actually. Kaneki's biggest controversy is hard to pinpoint, but it's probably just his release as a whole.
Bro,
it was
Kaneki
partly due
is
to him
just
being
controversial
from an anime,
himself.
which was met with inherent controversy, and the whole argument of whether or not it fit into DBD. Beyond this, he was controversial due to his incredibly strong power.
I still say till this day, man, I call it controversial still. Like, I still think Kaneki, when he released, was still as shit as he is today. Like, he was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's easier to run nowadays than he was back then, but it's not like people made it out to seem like Kaneki was unfucking loopable. Yet I was looping for 3 to 5 gens every chase. I mean, like, granted, there are maps like Cold Wind, right? There were certain maps like Cold Wind, Haddonfield. I'm like, a lot of these maps that have like no pallets in between like this large, vast area of land, and you were just cooked. I think it was a matter of just like, he was an absolute pub stomper, and even like against teams, if you didn't have like an efficient looper, then you were just gonna get destroyed by this killer.
Pressure, ultimately leading to a string of subsequent nerfs. Springtrap's greatest controversy, I'd say, similar to Kaneki, was just surrounding whether or not he belonged in the game to begin with. This is another one of those arguments that I can't quite understand, honestly, why it even happened, but it was definitely a hot topic around the time. Many believe FNAF doesn't fit, and still do believe that, with its style being ill-fitting.
Does anyone even play Springtrap anymore? I feel like I don't see that guy anymore.
Controversy came as a result of her insanely overpowered state on launch. A state which rivaled that of characters previously in 2025, such as Kaneki. Her power was actually buffed up from the PTB, but to a far too high degree, with her able to leech and then quickly catch up, hit, use her flight, and then hit again. Almost inescapable, I'd say. Yeah, alright, well, I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts as always down below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Okay, that was a good video. Bro, I love watching, shit. What the fuck is this? Dude it.
Here's
okay. Bro, I love watching AZHYMOVS videos because like they're very like just like unique, bro. Like they're so like out there when it comes to like ideas. And like I don't know if he like writes like a script for everything, but like he's such a great writer. I just want to say that. Like big fucking W's like AZHYMOVS, man.
He's yapping in the fog, never lost for words. Looping like a legend, though it's all a blur. Content so crisp even when he's late. Imposter games, chaotic but great. Where's